America.
Welcome to the second hour of News and Views on Salam Media. Our next guest is IOL columnist. He's also an investigative journalist, and he is Roscoe Palm. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. And of course, we are talking about the DA having fired Renaldo Gouws in wake of explosive racism revelations. You broke that story, did you not?
Yes, I did. And the story broke on the day of the inauguration and definitely set the cat amongst the pigeons, put it that way.
What a unlucky coincidence for him, isn't it? Um, According to memory, I could be wrong here, but was this not comments that it made way back in 2010? Should should it have been resurfacing now that he just got this plum position and things were all looking very rosy for him? I also seem to remember that perhaps a couple of weeks, 2, 3 months ago, a similar story or rumors were making the rounds about this very same incident.
Mhm. Well, Ronaldo Gouws, as a podcast, he's always really skated on thin ice with his rhetoric and the things that he said. So he had been caught homophobic utterances, racially coded utterances. But up until that point, there'd never been that level of like blatant, bald-faced racism that he displayed in that video. He's had to apologize for numerous incidents in the past. And when this incident came to light, instead of apologizing, he didn't. In terms of what the law says, under the Pepuda Act, the Equality Act, in sections 10 and 11, those words in themselves constitute hate speech. Now, Ronaldo Gouws had said that he was using that as a rhetorical device, but even the words themselves constitute hate speech. And in fact, the Constitutional Court said that being called the K word, let me get this right, is the worst insult that can ever be visited upon an African person in South Africa. I think that we've seen the DA move more and more to the right over the course of many years. And so it became a tent that welcomed characters like Ronaldo Gouws and Roman Kabanak at the expense of a black electorate that we had seen under Lindiwe Mazibuko, Pumzile Pandam, Mbali Tuli. The DA had purged those black and non-white people, calling them illiberal. And in so doing, it made space for, I think, what is outright right-wing racism. And now that the DA is in a part of the GNU, there just simply isn't any space for that kind of rhetoric. It must choose. It can either be a right-wing party or it can be a governing party. And I think that recently, with Ronaldo Gouws being fired, it's clear the direction of travel that the DA has to go now.
Obviously, you mentioned Roman Kabanek as well. He had to step down as chief of staff. Do you think that this is the type of trend we're going to be seeing, where people step out of line, where they make racial slurs and comments that, and also at the same time, a very strong message to us as lay people, because we can get caught up sometimes very innocently or in a moment of anger, say, use the K word, for example, and then find that we're in hot water. What is the strong message here then going forward to us as lay people, but very particularly with the DA? They have now obviously set a precedence. What else do we need to look out for as far as they're concerned and being part of the GNU?
In terms of Roman Kabanak, my latest information, or at least what seems to be out in the public domain, is that he has not actually resigned. He was asked to resign. And the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, said that this is subject to an HR process. reading between the lines, this means what I can at least tell, he's been told that he should resign, but he's already signed a contract. And under his contract as the chief of staff, he's not infringed in any way. I think is holding on to a payday. Now, there was a question in Parliament asked by Musi Maimani about the appointments in the Department of Agriculture. And many of the staff have not been appointed, but it's clear that the Chief of Staff with Roman Kabanak has been appointed at the salary of 1.2 million rand. So I think that Roman is looking for a settlement. It'll be interesting to
Ah,
see whether he is whether he would be paid that settlement out of public funds, which means that John Steenhuisen's department, his first act as a minister virtually would be to misuse public funds to pay off somebody who, for me, I view as a racist, a right winger, somebody who makes common cause with fascists, or whether he would then find some other funding to entice his chief of staff to turn down. And I think that enticement of a government official, I think it's certainly immoral. It may be illegal. So Roman as the DA and John Steenhuisen in a knot in a knot of sorts. Regarding outbursts that
just
might
yeah,
be
just can I just ask you, just remind
sure.
us what was the controversy around Kabanak?
Roman Kabanak has long been a right wing podcaster. I think these latest of a slew of controversial statements, let's be mild and call them controversial, is to say that black people cannot be liberal. And I think that was, in fact, reinforced by a report where that saw Musi Maimani act as the leader. It was Tony Leon, DA Megafunder, um, uh, um, I forgot his name, and Ryan Kutsia, who authored that report that said we must no longer talk about redress, we must no longer talk about race in the DA. That's illiberal. And I think Roman is really, he was echoing things that were already been part of I think, a right wing tendency and a right wing drift in the DA. Um, Michel Leroux was the other person who authored that report. So I don't think that has any place in if you're governing along with a black majority in a black majority country. You're going to say that black people are capable or incapable of such a thing and such another thing. It's frankly it's racist, and it was an unwise decision to appoint Roman Kabanak, particularly given his views on land reform and historical justice. To be the chief of staff in a ministry where one has to deal with quickening the slow pace of land reform and historical redress, and to have Roman Kabanak in one Twitter post posing with a gun and saying, preparing for EWC, I think it's inflammatory, and it boggles the mind that, first of all, the DA's vetting process, where such exists, would let Renaldo Gouws and Roman Kabanak slip through the cracks, or that somebody looked at these guys within the DA and said, well, yeah, these are the right guys to do the job in South Africa in 2024. It's completely unfit for purpose.
Says a lot about the DA, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely.
The-
Uh,
if this is the type of people they that they're employing in top positions. So where to from here then for the DA having fired House, and then of course with Roman Kabanak probably awaiting a settlement of some sort. Where to from here? And that is agriculture is a key position, is it not?
It's a key position. I mean, we've seen the Democratic Alliance in the negotiations when the GNU asked for ministries to be sealed, which is completely contrary to the Constitution. You cannot have ministries operate beyond the purview of the president of the country. That's just not the way it works. But we can see what they would do if left to their own devices. It's important to note that the Democratic Alliance, the word alliance is part of the name of the party. it's an alliance that used to be comprised of, let's say, Musi Maimane Build One South Africa, people would naturally vote for Rise, people who would have voted for the PA, but then they shifted to the right and they made accommodation for these right wingers. Um, Funnily enough, that 2016 iteration of the DA would have worked much better in the GNU because there was some sense of needing to address the inequalities of the past. Um, but as the DA and the ANC, I would say, are the center of gravity inside of the GNU, these parties will fundamentally change each other through contact with each other. And so we're seeing already now the DA having to, I wouldn't say tack to the left necessarily, but at least cosmetically show the public that things that would embarrass them inside of the GNU in partnership with the black majority ANC, they are at least cosmetically trying to clean up these embarrassing messes. And it's been embarrassing. The DA have lost so much credibility as a political party in modern South Africa from these incidents.
Roscoe, let me ask you a final question, not necessarily related to what we're talking about here, but the DA and their mode of operation. They threatened last week, they made a public statement that if the president signs into law the Bella Bill, they're going to resign from the GNU. Well, the president has gone ahead, he signed it off. Signed it into law on Friday with two outstanding clauses. He's given a 3-month period for that to be sorted out. I have discussed that at length in an earlier interview this morning with Mary Metcalf. I want to get your stance on what happens now. They've made this threat that we will resign. What happens now? It's Monday morning. I haven't heard anything yet.
They're not going to leave the GNU. It's when somebody says they're going to leave, and they don't leave. These are bluffs. They are very happy to be in governance, to have the access that being in charge of certain ministries would have. But I think the DA and the ANC, they confuse and they confound each other now in the grand coalition. We are now very much in a fly by the seat of the pants situation between the ANC. I think there's very much a hand in glove scenario. I think President Cyril Ramaphosa has tendencies that would accommodate, I would say, the DA's business friendly approach. But this contact between the ANC and the DA, it will result in many further instances where there are tensions that play out in the public domain. But the DA, they won't leave the GNU. This is all bluster. It's threat. They really enjoy being at the seat of power. Helen Zille loves running the country from her kitchen. John Steenhuisen loves being a Minister of Agriculture, going to China, getting all the perks. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay, it's all plush and cushy jobs. Let's wrap up then. And I just think that this is just really, we need to keep our eyes on this matter. So, yeah, it's been nice talking with you. Sorry, I was distracted there for a minute, just checking if our next guest is online because I did want to stretch this interview for a bit more, but it seems as if the guest is there. So I can't pick your brains any further this morning, but really nice talking to you. And undoubtedly, we are really going to see a lot of days of our lives on as far as our politics is concerned, and undoubtedly we'll also be talking with you going forward more regularly to get a full account of what exactly is going down. So Roscoe, thank you indeed for your time and your insights. You are an IOL columnist, and you're also an investigative journalist. Thank you indeed. Nice chatting with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's a pleasure to chat with you.
It's 8:39 News and Views moving along, and we're going to go for an ad break before we are joined by our next guest.